pilot refuses to fly with black autistic twins. Seconds later, their CEO Dad walks on board. "Not on my flight," the pilot snaps, pointing at the twins. Two quiet black boys clutching tablets, headphones humming softly. Their mother blinks, frozen mid-sentence. "They're autistic," she pleads, voice trembling. They're calm. "Please, I set off my plane." His arrogance echoes through first class, phones already recording. Passengers murmur, some outraged, some silent. The boys huddle closer, frightened. A flight attendant stammers, "Captain, sir, maybe we should—" But he's already storming toward the cockpit. Then, heels click on the jet bridge. A tall man in a charcoal suit steps aboard. His calm smile chills the air. Welcome to Respect Wind Stories, a place where powerful tales come alive, and every word carries meaning. I would love to know where you are joining from today. Share it in the comments below. And while you do, sit back, relax, and let your heart open to a story that will move your soul and spark your imagination. Every story here carries a message, because in the end, respect always wins. Let us begin. The man's name is David Cole, CEO of Cole Dynamics, a global aviation tech company that quietly funds half the airline's fleet. But today, he's just a father who planned a rare trip with his autistic twins and wife. The flight was meant to celebrate progress, their first journey without a therapist's supervision. Now humiliation fills the air like turbulence. David's calm steps mask a storm. The cameras turn toward him, unaware of who he is. The pilot's arrogance is about to meet quiet power, and the first-class cabin is about to witness a lesson in justice. The hum of the cabin turns uneasy as David Cole steps inside, shoulders squared, his charcoal suit catching the low cabin lights. Passengers instinctively shift, sensing authority in the way he moves. Slow, deliberate like someone used to commanding boardrooms, not begging for fairness at a gate. The pilot, Captain Reynolds, doesn't look back. He's too busy barking at a young flight attendant near the cockpit. "I don't care what corporate says," he growls. "I'm not flying with kids who could have a meltdown mid-air. Liability. My aircraft. My rules." The words sting the mother, Alicia Cole, like a slap. She presses her hand to her chest, holding herself steady. Her twins, Eli and Noah, identical but for the faint scar above Noah's eyebrow, stare down at their shoes, their noise-cancelling headphones blinking blue. They don't cry. They retreat inward, where it's quiet. David's voice is calm, almost too calm. "Captain Reynolds," he says. The pilot half turns, visibly annoyed. "Sir, we're dealing with a safety issue here. Please return to your seat." David doesn't move. "The only safety issue I see is a man making discriminatory calls from his own prejudice." Gasps ripple through the cabin. A businessman in 3A leans forward, interested now. A teenager across the aisle films, her phone angled perfectly. Reynolds scoffs, folding his arms. "Sir, you're welcome to your opinion, but I have full operational authority over this aircraft, and I'm exercising it." David's tone sharpens, but his posture doesn't. "You're exercising arrogance. There's a difference." The pilot's jaw twitches. "Sir, if you continue this line of—" "Continue," David interrupts softly. "Oh, I intend to." He pulls out his phone, opens a folder, and begins recording. His camera catches the pilot, the trembling flight attendant, and his wife still clutching their sons. "Please, sir," the attendant whispers. "You're making it worse." David turns to her, eyes kind. "No, he already did that." The gate agent, pale and sweating, rushes down the aisle. "Captain, we've got corporate on hold." "I don't need corporate," Reynolds snaps. "This is my flight." David's gaze narrows slightly. "Not for long." The murmurs swell. Passengers whisper to each other. Is he serious? Who is this guy? Can the pilot really do that? The tension grows heavy, electric. Reynolds pulls out his tablet, muttering about federal aviation regulations, pointing to an obscure policy about passenger interference. David's lips barely move, but the words land like thunder. "You're quoting policy you don't understand, Captain. Section 41705 of Title 49. Air Carrier Access Act. You're violating it right now. Reynolds freezes. For a second, he's not the man in control. He's a child caught misbehaving. But arrogance, like turbulence, never fades quietly. Sir, are you an attorney? No, David says. Worse. I'm someone who writes your training software. A few passengers laugh nervously, unsure if it's a joke. It isn't. The captain's composure cracks for a moment before he snaps back into command. You need to sit down, sir, or you'll be removed. David's reply is soft, measured. Then do it. Let's see how the headlines read when the airline explains why their own tech partner was dragged off for protecting his disabled children. The entire plane goes silent. Even the hum of the engine seems to hold its breath. Reynolds' face reddens. He looks to the flight attendants for support, but they avert their eyes. He glances at the gate agent. She's already on her phone, whispering frantically. Security, he mutters under his breath. But David hears it. He steps closer, his presence unflinching. I've met men like you my entire life, Captain. Men who confuse command with cruelty. But here's the truth. Leadership isn't about who gives the orders. It's about who earns respect. The pilot opens his mouth to reply, but David raises a finger. And right now, you've lost this cabin's respect entirely. The passengers look around, and indeed, no one sides with Reynolds anymore. Not after hearing the law quoted so precisely. Not after seeing the quiet strength in the man defending his family. Still, the pilot straightens his shoulders, fighting to maintain control. Sir, you may think you're somebody important, but up here... David cuts him off with a whisper that somehow carries across the aisle. Oh, Captain, you have no idea who you're talking to. And with that, the temperature in the cabin seems to drop. Cameras keep rolling. The story has just begun. Captain Reynolds glares at David, trying to reclaim control of the cabin, but the damage is already done. The passengers' eyes tell the story. The once confident pilot now looks smaller under the scrutiny of dozens of phones capturing every breath. He clears his throat, grasping at authority. If you don't take your seat, sir, I'll have security escort you and your family off this aircraft. Alicia flinches, her hand tightening on Eli's shoulder. David turns to her, his voice soft, reassuring. It's all right. We're not moving. Not this time. His tone carries calm defiance, the kind that unsettles tyrants more than shouting ever could. The pilot signals the gate agent. Get security up here now. David's eyebrow lifts slightly. Please do. Make sure they record everything, because when corporate reviews this, they'll notice you violated not only the Air Carrier Access Act, but also your company's own inclusion and sensitivity policy. Section 3.2.4. Reynolds blinks. He doesn't know it, but that policy was written by David's own legal team. From the back of the plane, a passenger speaks up. Hey man, those kids ain't bothering anyone. Let 'em fly, another joins in. Yeah, this isn't right. The cabin stirs, voices gathering like a wave. A chorus of moral outrage rises, powered by camera flashes and disbelief. Reynolds raises a hand. Enough! Everyone calm down Before he can finish, David takes a step forward, the cabin lights catching the silver in his wedding band. His calm deepens, his words measured but razor sharp. Before you what, Captain? Remove paying passengers for your prejudice. You're escalating discrimination in front of 100 witnesses. The gate agent's phone buzzes violently. She glances down, reads the message, and her expression changes. Fear, then confusion. Captain, she murmurs. Corporate says, stand by. They're reviewing something. Reynolds frowns. Reviewing what? The agent hesitates. They said... It's urgent. David's faint smile returns, quiet and deadly. He doesn't have to say it out loud. They're reviewing him. The pilot grips the doorframe, tension visible in every tendon of his hand. Sir, whatever game you're playing... David interrupts gently. I don't play games, Captain. I build systems that expose them. Gasps. The businessman in 3A leans forward again, whispering to his seatmate. He said build systems. Is he with the FAA? No, the woman whispers back. I think he owns something big. The murmurs spread through the plane like sparks across dry grass. The mother wipes her tears discreetly, straightening her shoulders beside him. For the first time since boarding, she looks safe. David glances at his twins, still quietly clutching their tablets. You see those boys, Captain? They've spent years being misunderstood. You don't get to add to that list. Reynolds' tone tightens. This isn't about race or disability. It's about safety protocol. David's expression hardens. The calm father giving way to the strategist. Safety protocol doesn't give you license to humiliate families. You're not protecting passengers. You're protecting your ego. The words land heavy. Then, from behind, a man in a Navy uniform, the head of cabin crew, steps forward. His name badge reads Chief Purser Malik Green. He's seen enough. Captain, with respect, Malik says quietly. This family's been calm and compliant. There's no cause to remove them. Reynolds spins furious. You don't question my authority, Malik. Then stop abusing it, Malik says simply. The passengers murmur again, louder this time. Cameras pivot. The power dynamic shifts 1 inch further. Reynolds tries to regroup, clinging to the last vestiges of control. You all think this is a democracy? This is my aircraft! David tilts his head slightly, studying him as though he's an equation already solved. And that right there, he says quietly, is the problem. The intercom buzzes. The gate agent steps closer, lowering her voice. Captain, I've got the Vice President of Corporate Operations on the line. She says not to move the plane. What? They said, quote, hold the aircraft until further notice. The color drains from Reynolds' face. He looks out the cockpit window, pretending to check weather charts. But everyone knows the truth. The delay isn't weather. It's him. David watches him silently, his calm almost unnerving now. The storm has shifted, and the pilot can feel it. A tightening around his authority, a slow unraveling he can't stop. From somewhere behind, a passenger mutters, Bet that guy's someone important. Another answers, Yeah. And the captain's about to find out how important. The captain's radio crackles faintly. The cabin air grows colder, thicker, as if the plane itself senses the coming reckoning. David leans closer, his voice low and surgical. Captain, you may think you've grounded my family, but after tonight you'll wish you'd let us fly. The gate agent's voice trembles through the cabin as she speaks into her headset. Yes, ma'am, he's here. Yes, that's correct. Understood. Then she lowers the device, her eyes darting nervously between David and the pilot. Corporate says we're to hold boarding operations until further verification. They're sending someone from management. Reynolds' nostrils flare. Verification of what? The agent swallows hard. Of him. David doesn't move. He stands still, arms folded, exuding the kind of quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself. Passengers whisper behind half-hidden smiles. The predator in command has become the hunted. Reynolds leans closer, voice low but dripping venom. You think you can embarrass me in front of my crew? David's eyes never waver. I'm not embarrassing you, Captain. You did that yourself the moment you singled out disabled children. Reynolds' jaw tightens until his teeth grind audibly. You're out of line. I draw the line, David replies calmly. You just crossed it. The cabin goes silent again. Even the engines outside seem to hush. Alicia watches her husband, her protector, stand taller than she's ever seen him. For a decade, she's watched him solve problems worth millions, but nothing ever cut this deep. This was personal. Reynolds rubs the bridge of his nose, muttering something about entitled passengers. But it's no use. The balance of power has flipped. One of the twins, Eli, whispers softly, Daddy, are we in trouble? David kneels beside him, his tone warm, soothing. No, buddy, we're just teaching someone how to be kind. A few passengers smile quietly. A woman across the aisle wipes her eyes. Then the intercom buzzes again, louder this time. The gate agent almost jumps. Captain Reynolds, she says nervously. They're patching in a live call from corporate operations. You're requested to step into the jet bridge. Reynolds glares at her, but the weight of her trembling expression leaves no room for defiance. He exhales sharply and marches down the aisle, brushing past David with a deliberate shoulder bump. David doesn't flinch. He simply turns to his wife and whispers, "Watch." Through the narrow glass of the cabin door, passengers can see Reynolds on the jet bridge, headset pressed to his ear. His face shifts as he listens, from irritation to confusion, and finally, disbelief. He turns toward the window, catching sight of David through the glass. Their eyes meet for a heartbeat. David's calm stare holds the kind of confidence that only truth can sustain. Reynolds mouths a silent question. "Who are you?" David doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The gate agent returns moments later, her face pale. "Captain Reynolds will return shortly," she says, voice thin. The cabin murmurs again, tension rippling like a live wire. A teenage boy near row 8 whispers, "I bet he just found out who that guy is." From the cockpit, Malik, the chief purser, exchanges glances with a flight attendant. "You think corporate pulled his file?" The attendant nods. "They must have. I heard they're using new AI screening from Cole Dynamics." Malik's eyebrows rise. "Wait, Cole Dynamics?" The realization hits him mid-sentence. His gaze snaps toward David, seated now beside his wife and twins, calm as ever. The logo on David's leather portfolio, a subtle embossed CD, suddenly clicks into place. He exhales slowly. "Oh my God." Moments later, Captain Reynolds returns, his composure gone. His cap sits crooked, his face blotched red with humiliation. Every step back toward the cabin door feels heavier. He clears his throat, forcing false authority. "We'll be departing shortly." David looks up, mild curiosity in his tone. "Are we cleared to fly now, Captain?" Reynolds swallows hard. "Yes, sir. You and your family are welcome to stay aboard." David's voice drops to a whisper sharp enough to cut steel. "We were always welcome. You just forgot." The pilot nods stiffly, then retreats into the cockpit, closing the door with too much force. For a long moment, the cabin stays silent. Then, applause. Hesitant at first, then growing, until the entire first-class section erupts. Passengers cheer, some standing, others recording as David lifts his son's hands in reassurance. Alicia exhales, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You didn't even raise your voice," she whispers. David smiles faintly. Some men only understand silence. Right before it gets loud, he turns toward the window as the engines begin to spool up, the city lights fading beyond the glass. The battle isn't over. Not yet. He knows what must come next. The call, the report, the reckoning that will shake the airline's leadership board. But for now, his boys are safe. His wife is calm, and the man who thought himself untouchable is trembling behind a closed cockpit door. The injustice has been challenged. The storm has only begun to form. The engines hum low, the seatbelt sign dings on, and the tension that had filled the air moments ago lingers like static. But beneath the calm surface, something begins to move. Something bigger than the pilot's arrogance or the passenger's applause. David Cole sits back, scrolling through his phone. On screen, a familiar blue and white interface glows. Cole Dynamics SecureNet, his company's proprietary system. To anyone else, it's just an app. To him, it's a key to the entire airline's infrastructure. Alicia leans closer, whispering, "You're not really going to..." He smiles faintly. "No, not yet." He presses a few buttons, quietly accessing an internal directory. His credentials, though unknown to most, still grant him executive-tier clearance. Within seconds, his system pings. "Compliance violation report filed, Captain Mark Reynolds." It's automatic now. A built-in algorithm he designed years ago to track discriminatory incidents. The irony isn't lost on him. The very pilot who sneered at his children will now be logged, flagged, and reviewed by a system created by the man he just tried to humiliate. The hum of the aircraft grows louder as the plane begins to taxi. The cabin lights dim. Passengers settle in, still murmuring about what happened. A man across the aisle, the businessman from earlier, leans over slightly. "That was something back there," he says in a low voice. "You handled him like you've done this before." David chuckles softly. In another life, maybe. Do you mind if I ask, what do you do? David's eyes glint faintly in the dim light. I build things that make powerful men answer for their mistakes. The man nods slowly, unsure whether it's metaphor or fact. As the plane begins its ascent, the intercom crackles. Captain Reynolds's voice fills the cabin, brittle and forced. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. We'll be departing shortly for New York. Thank you for your patience. There's a pause, too long, too shaky, before he adds, and welcome aboard. A few passengers exchange glances. The words sound hollow. Alicia closes her eyes, exhaling deeply. Her sons are finally calm again, their headphones humming with soft music. She rests her head against David's shoulder. You really scared him, she murmurs. David's gaze stays fixed ahead. He wasn't scared of me, he says. He was scared of being seen. The flight climbs through the clouds, city lights fading beneath. For the first time in an hour, peace feels possible, until the seatbelt sign flickers again. Then, a sound. A quiet chime from the flight attendant's console near the galley. Malik, the chief purser, frowns and checks the monitor. His expression changes almost instantly. He walks briskly toward David, lowering his voice. Mr. Cole, you should see this. David glances at Alicia. Stay here with the boys. He stands and follows Malik down the narrow aisle toward the service galley, away from prying eyes. Malik holds up the small screen. A message from corporate ops flashing in red. Pilot under review. Incident escalated to compliance. Passenger identified. David Cole, CEO. Cole Dynamics. Priority contact initiated. David's eyes flicker. He hadn't expected it to move that fast. They already connected the dots? Malik asks quietly. David nods. Faster than I thought. Malik's tone lowers to a near whisper. They've sent a message to the cockpit too. David's brow furrows. To the captain? Yes, sir. It says his clearance is under temporary suspension pending investigation. David blinks once. The system he built, the safeguard against corporate abuse, had just turned itself on. The twist he'd designed for others was now playing out in real time, thousands of feet in the air. Malik glances toward the cockpit. He hasn't responded. He just shut the door tighter. David's voice remains calm, but his pulse ticks faster. Good, let him stew. Malik hesitates. What happens now? David's answer is quiet, steady, certain. Now the system does what it was built to do. Hold him accountable. The chief purser looks at him with a hint of awe. I've seen a lot of flights, Mr. Cole. Never one like this. David allows himself the smallest smile. Neither have I. As he turns to return to his seat, his phone buzzes again. A notification from his assistant on the ground. It reads simply, media alert triggered, incident trending, pilot refuses twins. He exhales slowly. The storm that began inside one cabin was now spreading across the world, and the man in the cockpit still had no idea how high the consequences were about to climb. In the cockpit, Captain Reynolds grips the controls tighter than necessary, the veins in his forearms rising. His headset crackles again with the corporate operations feed. Cold, clinical, impossible to ignore. Captain Mark Reynolds, this is Director Patel from Cole Dynamics Aviation Compliance Division. You are to maintain flight course and cooperate with pending investigation procedures. Do not attempt to disable or override onboard systems. Reynolds' throat goes dry. This is my aircraft. You don't get to hijack my... The voice cuts through him like a scalpel. You've lost your discretionary command privileges effective immediately. We suggest full compliance, Captain. The passenger seated in 2A, Mr. David Cole, is your superior in this matter. Silence. The words don't just sting, they detonate. The pilot's grip trembles on the yoke. His co-pilot, a quiet young man barely 30, swallows nervously. Sir, the co-pilot says, voice cautious. Maybe we should cooperate. Reynolds shoots him a glare. Don't you start too. Sir, if this is corporate level, you know what it means. The pilot's jaw flexes. He can feel his authority dissolving mid-flight, replaced by a gnawing dread that everyone outside that cockpit already knows what he doesn't want to face. His career is circling the drain. Back in the cabin, David sits composed, phone in hand, quietly typing. The flight's Wi-Fi blinks active, and his assistant's messages pour in. CNN request for statement. Airline PR issued temporary hold. Pilot refuses twins now trending number 2 in the US. He scrolls once, twice, and pauses at a post showing his wife's trembling hand on Eli's shoulder. The caption reads, "Mother and twins humiliated mid-flight. Hero dad stands his ground." Thousands of comments flood beneath, each more furious than the last. Alicia glances at his screen, eyes widening. It's everywhere already. David nods slowly. The world doesn't wait for truth anymore. It reacts to what it sees first. Is that good or bad? Depends on what we do next. He taps a secure line on his phone and calls an internal contact. A smooth, confident female voice answers, "Mr. Cole, we've been monitoring the feed. Legal team is ready for your go-ahead." "Not yet," he says quietly. "Let it breathe. Let people see what arrogance looks like in real time." The voice hesitates. "Understood, sir. But when you give the signal, we'll act." David ends the call and exhales, his calm mask unbroken. Across the aisle, Malik approaches again. "Mr. Cole, just got a private message from ground control. They're transferring authority of this flight's operational log to..." David finishes the sentence. "To me?" Malik nods slowly. "Yes, sir. How did you..." "I wrote the protocol." The chief purser's lips twitch into something between a laugh and disbelief. "You're serious?" David's expression softens, but his words stay sharp. "Captain Reynolds isn't just losing his flight. He's losing his license. The system will ground him before we even land." From the cockpit, a muffled bang echoes, a fist hitting metal. Reynolds' voice erupts over the intercom, trying to salvage dignity. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be experiencing minor turbulence. Please remain seated." David doesn't even look up. "Translation," he mutters. He's panicking. The turbulence never comes. The only thing shaking now is his ego. Passengers exchange knowing glances. Someone whispers, "He sounds scared." Another replies, "He should be." Minutes later, David's phone buzzes again. A live feed from the airline's internal security server. His credentials unlock it instantly. On screen, Captain Reynolds. Flagged, non-compliance, discrimination, conduct, code, red. He scrolls to the attached note. It's from the airline's CEO herself. "Mr. Cole, our sincerest apologies. We'll contact you privately after landing to resolve this. We deeply regret the conduct of our employee." David closes the message. Alicia watches him, reading his silence. "You could end him right now," she says softly. He nods. "But if I do, it'll look like revenge. I want it to look like accountability." Her eyes shine with quiet pride. "That's what makes you different." He takes her hand gently. "That's what makes her stronger." The intercom pings again, but this time it's Malik's voice. Calm, firm, controlled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience. We're cruising smoothly at 30,000 feet. Please know that Cole Dynamics is ensuring your flight is safe and comfortable." Gasps ripple through the cabin. People glance around. Did he just say Cole Dynamics? Reynolds' muffled voice breaks in. "Malik, what the hell are you doing?" Malik smiles faintly, finger off the mic. "Doing what's right, sir." David closes his eyes briefly, the faintest curve of satisfaction touching his lips. The pieces were aligning perfectly. He had designed his company's systems to protect those without voices. Now, for the first time, it was protecting his own family. The arrogance that once filled the cabin has been replaced with something new. Awareness, the kind that stings, the kind that spreads. And above the clouds, a man who once thought himself untouchable now sits strapped in the cockpit, realizing his next landing might be his last. The cabin remains hushed, the mood transformed. Passengers scroll through their phones, watching live updates of the very flight they're sitting on. Hashtags flood social media. Pilot refuses twins. Justice in first class. Cole on board. Every ping of notification is another nail in Captain Reynolds' professional coffin. Up front, his breathing is shallow, chest rising fast under the cockpit's muted glow. The co-pilot keeps glancing over nervously. "Sir," he says quietly, "they know who he is. We're trending. Corporate's monitoring every word." Reynolds' jaw tightens. "Let them. I've flown for 20 years without incident." "Sir," the co-pilot replies, hesitating. "This is the incident." The words hang like turbulence that doesn't go away. He wipes sweat from his brow. "He humiliated me in front of my crew." "No, sir," the co-pilot says softly. "You did that to yourself." Reynolds stares forward, eyes narrowing. "They're making me a villain." "You made yourself one." Silence. Then the captain presses his mic again, trying to restore some semblance of dignity. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin our descent shortly. We appreciate your cooperation." Down in first class, David's phone buzzes again. An incoming video call marked Private Ops Executive Board. He puts in one earpiece, keeping his voice low. A woman's face appears. CEO Laura Benton, the airline's top executive. Her tone is clipped but deferential. "David, I had no idea you were on that flight. We're horrified. I've already initiated an internal audit." David leans back, his reflection glinting in the window's glass. "Laura, this isn't about me. It's about a culture you've allowed to go unchecked." She nods quickly. "We'll correct it immediately. Captain Reynolds is suspended pending investigation. HR and compliance are already drafting statements." David's tone remains calm. "Don't just suspend him. Educate the next one. That's how you stop this from repeating." Her expression softens. "You're right. Always straight to the root. I build systems," he says quietly. "They only work when people learn." The call ends. He pockets his phone, gazing out the window as clouds ripple beneath the wings. Alicia watches him with quiet awe. "You could have fired him instantly," he shakes his head. "Power's not about who can destroy fastest. It's about who can correct with grace." She squeezes his hand. "You always were better at the long game." He smiles faintly. "It's the only one worth playing." Across the aisle, Malik approaches again, whispering. "Sir, ground just sent an update. News crews are already at JFK waiting." David exhales slowly. "Of course they are. Should I prepare an escort?" Malik asks. "Not yet. Let the cameras see what real dignity looks like." Malik nods, understanding. As the plane begins its descent, passengers exchange murmurs. "That's him," someone whispers. "The guy who built the system," another adds. "He handled it like a boss." Even the flight attendants seem to walk taller. Their voices steadier, pride returning where fear once lived. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Reynolds stares blankly at the horizon. The sun glows orange ahead, setting fire to the clouds. His hands tremble faintly. "Sir," his co-pilot says. "ATC cleared us for approach." Reynolds nods wordlessly, but inside, the truth is sinking in. This is his last flight. Every motion, the flick of a switch, the call to tower, the final descent checklist, feels like a eulogy to a career undone by arrogance. As the plane dips lower through the clouds, David glances toward the cockpit door. He doesn't smile. He doesn't gloat. He simply watches, the quiet satisfaction of justice unfolding. Eli tugs his sleeve. "Daddy, are we almost home?" David nods, brushing his son's hair gently. "Almost, champ." "Are the bad people gone?" "Not gone," David says softly. "But learning." The engines roar, landing gear deploying with a metallic thud. The runway lights streak closer. A hush falls over the cabin as rubber meets asphalt. A clean, steady landing. Applause breaks out the moment the wheels touch down. Not for the pilot, not for the airline, but for the man who stayed calm when everything screamed for confrontation. Reynolds sits motionless in the cockpit, staring at his reflection in the black glass of the console. Somewhere deep down he realizes the truth. The man he tried to demean just rewrote his future in silence. In row 2A, David unbuckles his seatbelt, looking over at Alicia. "You know," he says quietly, "the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or skies. They're fought in the spaces between ignorance and understanding. She nods, smiling faintly. And you just close that gap a little more. As the plane slows to a halt, the cabin fills with light from the terminal windows. The passengers begin to stand, whispering thanks, some even shaking his hand as they pass. But David stays seated, letting them go first. The calm at the center of a storm he never needed to raise his voice to win. The aircraft door opens with a hydraulic hiss, releasing a wave of murmurs and flashing lights. The jet bridge ahead glows with the chaos of media frenzy. Microphones raised, cameras aimed, flashes erupting like lightning. The humiliated pilot walks out first, head low, uniform cap tucked under one arm. "Captain Reynolds!" a voice shouts. "Do you deny refusing passengers based on race or disability?" He keeps walking, jaw tight, ignoring the swarm. His co-pilot trails behind, pale and silent, while airline representatives wait anxiously to escort them away. Then the cameras shift. All lenses pivot toward the calm figure emerging behind them. David Cole steps out of the plane hand in hand with his twins, his wife by his side. He doesn't rush, doesn't wave. His presence alone quiets the storm. Reporters lower their voices as if instinctively sensing the difference between scandal and something deeper. Dignity. A journalist calls out, "Mr. Cole, were you aware the pilot didn't recognize you as the CEO of Cole Dynamics?" David stops. The crowd freezes. He looks directly at the journalist, tone level, but steady. "I was aware he didn't recognize our humanity," he replies. A ripple of stunned silence follows. Then camera shutters explode again, faster this time. He continues walking, guiding Eli and Noah forward. His wife leans close and whispers, "You didn't have to speak." "I didn't," he says softly. "I wanted to." Behind them, Reynolds is being escorted through a side exit. Someone hands him an envelope, his preliminary suspension notice. His hand shakes as he opens it, scanning the corporate seal and the words, "Pending termination review." His career, once defined by control, has been reduced to ink and regret. Meanwhile, the twins pause near a waiting area where a young boy waves shyly. He's clutching a small toy plane and wearing noise-cancelling headphones. His mother smiles gratefully at David. "Your sons are brave," she says quietly. "They gave my boy courage just by walking off that flight." David crouches to the boy's level. "You like planes?" he asks gently. The boy nods. "Then never let anyone tell you where you can or can't fly," David says with a smile. "You've got more control than they ever will." The mother's eyes glisten. "Thank you," he nods once, then rises, the family continuing toward baggage claim. Malik catches up, slightly breathless. "Sir, media wants an official statement. PR's drafting one, but..." David cuts him off kindly. "No need. The story speaks for itself." "But sir, the board..." "They'll see what integrity looks like in real time. Let it play out," Malik exhales, nodding in quiet respect. "Understood." As they exit into the terminal, a wall of people begins to applaud. Some are airline staff, others passengers from connecting flights who watched the viral video mid-air. The clapping grows, echoing off glass and tile until it becomes something thunderous. Alicia squeezes his hand, tears glinting. "They're not clapping for a CEO," she whispers. "They're clapping for a father." David glances around at the crowd, his twins half hiding behind him, overwhelmed by the sound. He kneels again, murmuring to them, "It's okay. They're just saying they're proud of you." Eli asks softly, "Did we do something good?" "You reminded people what right looks like," David replies. "That's always good." Nearby, a flight attendant, the same one who had tried to reason with the pilot, approaches hesitantly. "Mr. Cole, I just wanted to thank you. You didn't yell. You didn't threaten. You just handled it." He smiles faintly. "Anger's noise. Truth is volume." She laughs gently through tears. "That's going on my wall." As security guides the family toward a private exit, the camera crews trail them but maintain distance now, as if aware this moment isn't just news. It's a reckoning. Above the crowd, An airport monitor replays the clip of the pilot refusing the twins, then transitions to footage of David's calm reply mid-flight. The captions read, "CEO Dad teaches world a lesson in grace." David glances up once, then away, muttering to himself, "Lesson's not for them. It's for the next one who thinks power means permission." The automatic doors part, sunlight spilling across the polished floor. The family steps outside, free, steady, united. By the time David and his family reach the black SUV waiting curbside, the world has already moved in fast forward. News anchors dissect the event live. Social media floods with side-by-side clips. The pilot's arrogance versus David's composure. The contrast is cinematic. Headlines glow on every phone. Pilot grounds black autistic twins until their father grounds him. Grace under fire. How a CEO turned discrimination into a masterclass. Inside the SUV, Alicia exhales, shoulders finally relaxing. "It's over," she murmurs. David looks out the tinted window at the airport skyline, expression unreadable. "No," he says quietly. "It's beginning." She turns to him, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I built Cold Dynamics to advance aviation tech," he says, voice calm. "Maybe it's time it advanced people too." Alicia studies him, that familiar glint in his eyes, the one that means an idea is forming, sharp and unstoppable. "You're going to launch something, aren't you?" He nods slightly. "A training initiative, real accountability. For every airline we partner with. Something tells me this isn't just PR." He smiles faintly. "You know me too well." The twins are half asleep in the back seat, their toy planes clutched tight. The hum of the road fills the silence. Then David's phone buzzes again. An unknown number, corporate prefix. He answers. "Mr. Cole," a tense male voice says. "This is Martin Cavanaugh, president of the Airline Pilots Association. I wanted to reach out personally. What happened today? It doesn't represent us." David stays quiet, letting him continue. "We'd like to issue an apology," Martin adds, "and, if possible, work together to prevent incidents like this. Your influence could help us make systemic changes." David glances out the window at a departing plane streaking through the sky. "Apologies matter," he says. "But prevention matters more. You can't fix what you won't face." Martin's tone softens. "Understood. We're open to your direction." David ends the call, thoughtful. Alicia watches him, a hint of pride in her smile. "You always turn storms into structure." He shrugs gently. "Storms are just energy. Depends on how you use them." The SUV glides through city streets. Outside, electronic billboards have already caught up with the story. One flashes an image of David stepping off the plane, hand in hand with his sons. The caption reads, "Integrity has no altitude limit." He shakes his head slightly, almost amused. "They always make it bigger than it was." "It was big," Alicia says softly. "You changed something today." He leans back, tone steady. "I just reminded people what change looks like." Meanwhile, inside JFK's operations center, chaos turns into cleanup. PR teams draft statements. Legal departments rush to finalize the termination of Captain Reynolds. Every memo includes the same phrase: non-compliance and discrimination. Zero tolerance. In a quiet conference room, Reynolds sits alone, staring at a termination document on the table. His cap rests beside it, a relic of pride. Across from him, the airline's HR director clears her throat. "Captain Reynolds," she says carefully, "will ensure your record reflects your years of service. But this was indefensible." Reynolds doesn't look up. His voice is low, brittle. "He didn't even yell. That's what gets me. He didn't need to." The HR director nods softly. That's what real authority looks like. Back in the SUV, David receives a message from Laura Benton, the airline CEO. From Laura Benton. Subject: Partnership Proposal. "David, I'd like to formally propose a Cold Dynamics program for inclusive aviation training. We'll fund it. You lead it." He reads it twice, then smiles slightly. They finally got the message. Alicia glances at him. Are you going to say yes? Not yet, he replies. They need to learn first. Then we'll build. She tilts her head. You're impossible. Consistent, he corrects. The car slows to a stop at a red light. Outside, a group of travelers recognizes him. One waves hesitantly. David lowers the window, offers a calm smile. A teenage boy calls out, Hey, Mr. Cole, you're the guy from the plane. You didn't even get mad. That was cool. David laughs quietly. Getting mad is easy. Staying right takes strength. The light turns green, and as they drive off, Alicia leans her head against his shoulder. You know, she whispers, you didn't just protect our boys today. You protected every parent who'll ever board a plane after us. David's voice drops to a near whisper. That's the plan. The skyline glows ahead, the city alive, buzzing, unaware that a quiet revolution has just begun at 30,000 feet. The next morning dawns over Manhattan with the soft hum of rain on glass. David stands by the floor-to-ceiling window of his apartment, coffee steaming in his hand, eyes tracing the skyline. The city is awake, and so is the world, because overnight, his name, his company, and his quiet defiance have filled every screen. News anchors replay the footage in split-screen format. The pilot's rejection versus the calm, measured reaction of the father he underestimated. Talk show hosts debate the story. Commentators call it a modern masterclass in controlled leadership. But for David, the noise fades behind the sound of his son's laughter echoing from the kitchen. Eli and Noah sit at the counter, eating pancakes shaped like airplanes, their mother smiling between them. Daddy, Eli calls, mouth full. We're famous. David chuckles, walking over. You're not famous, he corrects gently. You're brave. Noah looks up curiously. What's the difference? David sits beside them, resting a hand on each of their small shoulders. Famous means people know your name, he says. Brave means people know your heart. Alicia meets his gaze, eyes shining, proud. You always find the right words, he smiles. Words matter when the world's listening. Her expression turns soft but serious. So, what now? David leans back, thinking for a moment. Now we do what we should have done years ago. We make sure no one has to go through what we did. Ever again. She nods slowly, understanding. You mean, he nods, the Flight Forward Initiative, a global coalition between Cole Dynamics and every airline willing to face its biases head-on. Later that morning, David walks into the company's glass-walled headquarters. The employees stand as he passes, not because he demands it, but because respect has taken root. Screens around the lobby display the company's mission, innovation with integrity. His assistant, Claire, rushes beside him, holding a tablet. Sir, the board wants to fast-track your proposal. Every major airline's requesting partnership. You've also got a CNN interview request, and the White House call to commend your leadership. David smiles faintly. I'm not interested in commendations. I'm interested in continuity. Get me the press release draft. Claire scrolls quickly and reads aloud. Cole Dynamics launches Flight Forward, a training and accountability program for inclusivity and behavioral reform in aviation. Good, he says. Add one more line. What's that? He looks at her, voice even. Because altitude means nothing without attitude, she grins. That's powerful. Make sure the pilot community reads it first, David adds. They need to know this isn't revenge, it's restoration. As the day unfolds, news of the initiative spreads globally. Airline unions sign on. Government officials praise the model. Even critics admit the brilliance, turning outrage into policy. But while the world spins, David remains grounded. That evening he returns home early. The apartment is dimly lit, the twins asleep. Alicia sits on the couch, a glass of tea in hand, watching a quiet replay of the viral clip. Still watching? He asks, smiling. She shrugs. I keep waiting for it to feel real. He joins her, sitting close. It'll never feel real, he murmurs. Just right. On the screen, a freeze frame shows him mid-air, calm, composed, defying every stereotype of how power should respond to disrespect. Beneath the image, a ticker runs. CEO David Cole inspires policy change after flight incident. Alicia rests her head against his shoulder. You know, you could have humiliated that man publicly. I didn't need to, David says quietly. He did it to himself. My job was to show what grace looks like afterward, she nods. And you did. Rain taps softly against the glass as the city lights shimmer below. David gazes out, lost in thought. Maybe, he says. The real victory isn't in winning the fight. It's in changing what the fight means. Alicia turns toward him. And what does it mean now? He looks at her, then toward the twins' bedroom door. It means our sons will never mistake silence for weakness. She smiles through tears. You turned humiliation into hope. David takes her hand, his voice low but firm. That's what leadership is, not the loudest voice in the room, but the calmest one that changes it. They sit together as the rain eases, dawn beginning to rise again on a world subtly better than it was yesterday. A week later, the world has quieted, but the echo of that flight lingers, not as controversy, but as catalyst. The clip has become a case study in corporate ethics, empathy, and composure. Universities teach it, leadership podcasts quote it, and yet, inside the Cole household, life is refreshingly ordinary again. Morning sunlight pours through the tall windows of their brownstone. Alicia hums softly while packing the twins' lunchboxes, 2 identical boxes, each with small stickers that read, Captain Courage. The boys sit at the table, drawing planes on scrap paper, still chattering about the flight that changed everything. David watches from the doorway, tie loosened, a rare ease in his shoulders. For the first time in days, he isn't a CEO or a headline. He's just Dad. Noah looks up suddenly. Daddy, when we fly next time, will that mean Man be there? David kneels beside him. No, son, he won't. Eli adds, because you made him go away. David shakes his head gently. No, because we helped him learn. The twins glance at each other, confused but thoughtful, that beautiful space where innocence meets understanding. Alicia watches them from the kitchen counter, pride shimmering in her smile. You always find a way to turn pain into purpose. David rises, pouring himself coffee. That's the only way it stops repeating. The doorbell rings. Malik stands outside holding a folder marked Flight Forward Initiative. He greets them warmly. Morning, boss. You're trending again. David sighs with a small laugh. I thought we were done trending. Not quite, Malik says, grinning. Your video from yesterday, the one where you talked about empathy and leadership, hit 10 million views. The comments section looks like a masterclass in humanity. David sets his mug down. Good. Maybe we're finally learning what leadership actually means. Malik nods. Also, you've got a letter. From someone unexpected. He hands David the envelope. Inside, neat handwriting fills a single page. It's from Mark Reynolds. Mr. Cole, I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to thank you. I've spent my suspension reflecting and volunteering with an autism awareness group. I never understood what I didn't see. You forced me to look. Maybe that's the start of something, right? Sincerely, Mark Reynolds. David folds the letter carefully, a soft exhale escaping his lips. He's trying, he murmurs. Alicia steps closer. Do you believe him? I believe effort, he replies. That's where change begins. He walks to the living room, gazing at the framed photo on the wall. Their family at the beach years ago, long before fame, before headlines. Back then, his biggest challenge was getting the twins to wear sunscreen. Now, their story was being told on every continent. Are you going to write him back? Alicia asks gently. David nods slowly, not in words. That afternoon, at Cole Dynamics headquarters, he stands before a packed auditorium of employees and press. Behind him, a massive screen displays the new slogan, Flight Forward, Education, Empathy, and Equality in the Skies. His voice is calm, but resonant. Last week, the world saw arrogance meet accountability. But that story isn't about revenge. It's about reflection. Every one of us has a cockpit, a space where we decide whether to rise or fall. Sometimes leadership means landing softer than we want to. A hush fills the room. Cameras flash. He continues, "This initiative isn't punishment, it's progress. Because power means nothing unless it lifts someone else." Applause swells, not thunderous, but warm, genuine. Afterward, reporters gather at the exit, but David slips out quietly through a side door, choosing peace over spectacle. Outside, the city hums. Taxis, sirens, life. He looks up at a jet slicing across the afternoon sky, contrails gleaming silver against blue. For the first time since that flight, he smiles not from relief, but from renewal. He whispers softly, as if to the sky itself, "We did it right this time." The following weekend, David and his family board another flight, a deliberate choice, not a necessity. The twins are hesitant at first, clutching their toy planes tightly, but David's calm presence steadies them. This time, everything feels different. The crew greets them with warm smiles, not forced politeness. The captain himself steps out before takeoff. A woman with kind eyes and quiet authority. She crouches slightly to meet the boys at eye level. "Hey there, co-pilots," she says gently. "You ready to help me fly this thing?" Eli grins shyly. "You'd let us?" She laughs softly. "You've already helped more people fly than you know." Alicia's eyes glisten as the captain returns to the cockpit. It's like the world changed overnight. David shakes his head with a smile. Not overnight, just one flight at a time. As the plane ascends through clear morning skies, sunlight floods the cabin. The twins press their faces to the window, fascinated, unafraid. Below, clouds drift like soft mountains, vast, endless, forgiving. David watches them, remembering the panic, the anger, the humiliation of that first flight. But now all of it feels distant, transformed. What was once a wound has become wisdom. A flight attendant stops beside him. "Mr. Cole," she says quietly, "I just wanted to thank you. I watched your speech. My brother's autistic, and seeing how you stood up for your boys, it meant more than you know." David smiles warmly. "You just made my day. Thank you for saying that." As she walks away, Alicia leans in. "Everywhere we go now, people see us differently." "Good," David says softly. "Maybe they'll start seeing each other differently too." An hour into the flight, Eli tugs his sleeve. "Daddy, can we go see the front?" David hesitates, glancing toward the cockpit door. Then the attendant from earlier nods, smiling. Moments later, the twins step inside the cockpit, eyes wide. The captain points to the horizon, explaining the controls in simple terms. "Every plane listens to its pilot," she says, "but the sky listens to no one. It just gives you space to learn." David stands behind them, taking in the moment, the symmetry of it all. The very door once closed to his family is now open, welcoming, bright. The captain glances back at him. "You know," she says with a grin, "you started a movement you probably can't stop." David chuckles. Wouldn't dream of it. After the visit, the twins return to their seats, bubbling with excitement. "Daddy, we saw everything!" He laughs, ruffling their hair. "You saw your future." When the flight lands, applause breaks out again. Spontaneous, joyful, but this time without outrage, without spectacle, just gratitude. As the family exits, the captain stands by the door, shaking hands with passengers. When David approaches, she says softly, "You made aviation more human again." He meets her gaze. "You're the ones keeping it that way." Outside the terminal, a small crowd has gathered. Not reporters, just travelers who recognize him. A few ask for photos, but David politely declines. Instead, he thanks them for flying safely, for caring, for learning. Alicia laughs. "You've officially become a public philosopher." David smiles, holding her hand. "Maybe we all should." They step into the sunlight, hand in hand, the twins skipping ahead. That evening, at home, David sits by the window again, the same one he'd watched rain fall through a week ago. The city hums below, but his focus drifts upward to the faint sound of jets overhead. He whispers to himself, almost prayerfully, "May every sky we cross be kinder than the last." In that quiet moment, He finally allows himself to exhale. The story isn't about punishment anymore. It's about possibility. Proof that one calm act, one unshaken choice, can change the altitude of humanity itself. And for the first time since everything began, David feels something deeper than relief. He feels peace. Months later, autumn paints the city in amber and rust. Life has settled into a rhythm again. Calm mornings, school drop-offs, family dinners, filled with laughter instead of headlines. Yet everywhere David goes, echoes of that one flight still ripple outward. At Coal Dynamics headquarters, the Flight Forward initiative has become a global model. Airlines across the world now use its curriculum, empathy training, neurodiversity awareness, and crisis de-escalation, all inspired by one father's quiet stand. David walks through the lobby, watching a video montage play on the massive screen. Flight attendants learning sign language, pilots volunteering at autism centers, passengers recording stories of changed hearts. He pauses, hands in pockets, eyes soft with pride. Malik joins him, smiling. You see this? Singapore Air just joined the program. You've basically redefined customer service. David chuckles. Let's just say we taught the skies some manners. They laugh, and for a moment, the weight of leadership feels lighter. Later that day, David visits a local school. The twins are on stage, giving a small presentation about airplanes. Eli speaks into the microphone, voice shaking but determined. My dad says being different doesn't mean we can't fly. It just means we fly our way. Applause fills the room. David swallows hard, emotions rising. Alicia slips her hand into his, squeezing gently. When the presentation ends, a mother approaches him. Mr. Cole, she says, voice trembling. My daughter's autistic too. That video of your flight, it made her believe she could travel someday. You changed more lives than you know. David smiles humbly. She changed mine too. Tell her the sky's waiting for her. Outside, the crisp wind rustles the trees. The boys run ahead, tossing leaves in the air, laughter echoing down the block. Alicia leans into David's shoulder. You realize you've become the face of something bigger than you? He nods slowly. Then maybe that's the point. Sometimes life picks its own pilot. They stop at a crosswalk, the late afternoon sun bathing the street in gold. David looks down at his sons, identical, beautiful, unstoppable, and feels gratitude pulse through him like a heartbeat. The world had once told them they didn't belong in the first-class cabin. Now they've opened doors for thousands who once sat in silence. That night, after tucking the twins into bed, David steps into his home office. The letter from Mark Reynolds still rests in a drawer, beside a small plaque from the airline, in recognition of leadership and compassion. He opens the drawer and adds something new. 2 tiny toy planes, each with a sticker labeled Captain Noah and Captain Eli. His eyes glisten as he whispers, "For every flight that begins with fear, may it end with understanding." He closes the drawer, exhales, and looks out the window. The moonlight catches the skyline, quiet, endless, and full of unseen destinations. Across town, in a small classroom at the airline training center, Mark Reynolds stands before a new group of recruits. His voice is calm, sincere. I once thought flying was about control, he says. Turns out it's about connection. The moment you forget that, you're not flying anymore. You're just moving through air. A young trainee raises her hand. Sir, did you really meet the CEO who started all this? Mark smiles faintly. Yeah. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that. Meeting. He looks out the window at a plane ascending, through twilight, silver wings catching the last light of day, and nods to himself. Maybe redemption, like flight, begins with trust. Back at home, David whispers a final line as he switches off the lights. Fly forward. The world outside hums, softer, wiser, better.